tonight, and it should be a lot of fun. I'm Mike Greenberg. I'm in Bristol this morning, and we thank you so much for getting up with us on ESPN. And we have a terrific show for you. We understand these are unusual circumstances for all of us, but I've got a terrific crew ready to go, including Louis Riddick coming up on all the latest moves around the National Football League. So let's get to it. It is time to get up with Tampa Tom versus time, meaning why is it taking so much time to get a deal done? Could there be a problem? Louis with his thoughts in just a moment. Then Stephen A. went at my guys yesterday on First Take about Brady avoiding these young stars. Today we get our chance. Don't miss Stephen A. on the debate coming up. And then a legit quarterback controversy is brewing in Chicago. Will it be Foles or Trubisky when the season begins? You've got questions, we've got answers as we get up with you starting right now. And it all begins, of course, with Tom Brady, who has taken the football world by storm with his decision of the other day to move to Tampa, taking his talents, if you will, from the Patriots after 20 seasons in the AFC East to the NFC South and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But some questions do remain because the new league year started at 4 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday and still no signing for Brady and the Bucs. There's Dan Graziano, our NFL insider extraordinaire. Dan, is there any cause for concern that this deal has yet to be finalized?
From my understanding, Greeny, no. The expectation continues to be that the deal will at some point be finalized and Tom Brady will be the new quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This issue is happening all over the league with a lot of lower profile signings. The logistics of this particular unique offseason with the travel restrictions that the NFL has put in place. Very difficult to get players signed up for physicals, and they have to figure out where they're going to do that. Which doctor is going to administer it? Is it a doctor the NFL approves? Is that a doctor that the Buccaneers trust? Is it a doctor Brady can get to? So those kinds of things are being worked out. It is more difficult than usual to get these things to the finish line, but I do believe, based on everything I've been told, that it will get there.
So essentially a formality, but until someone signs a piece of paper, the paper is unsigned. With Brady leaving the Patriots, that, of course, begs the question on what to expect from Belichick in New England, and maybe even how much longer we should expect Bill Belichick to be the coach of the Patriots. What do we know about that?
There are very few people, Greeny, in the league that know Bill Belichick's mind particularly well. But there is an expectation around most people in the league that I talk to that Belichick's going to want to stay there long enough to surpass Don Shula and be number one all-time in wins. I believe he's about 55 wins behind Don Shula, which, you know, during the Brady-Belichick era would have been about 5 years. Maybe it'll take him a little bit longer now, depending on how he fixes quarterback. But I don't get the sense that there's anybody out there who thinks Bill Belichick is about to pack it in just because Tom Brady left. If anything, he almost certainly wants to stay there and prove that he can win him.
Dan Graziano, outstanding work. Thank you, and we'll see you a little bit later today. And, you know, interesting note here as we look at Brady going to Tampa. Adam Schefter, who was live with us an hour ago, tweeted, since word surfaced that Tom Brady is expected to land in Tampa, an unexpected high number of players have reached out to the Buccaneers to let them know they want to join the former Patriot quarterback there. That's according to league sources. There's no one who understands the dynamics of team building better than our Louis Riddick, and we're delighted to have him with us here along with Dan Orlovsky to get into all of this. And Louis, we've not on our show had a chance to get your perspective. What do you think of the marriage of Tom Brady with Bruce Arians and the collection of talent there in Tampa Bay?
Yeah, I think if Tom Brady's going to go ahead and take the chance and assume the risk of changing everything that he has done for 20 years with the unprecedented amount of success that he has had, then what better place than to go down to Tampa with those people? Because, Greeny, how many times have we talked about on your show how it's a people business? And I can tell you, I know some of the people down in Tampa Bay in the front office and on that coaching staff personally, and you could not get a better group of people as far as people who understand how important relationships are, what it takes to put players in the right atmosphere in order for them to win. And then when you get a guy like Tom Brady who can then take even your own expectations and take even your own philosophies and your philosophical beliefs and take them to the next level, then to me it's a perfect marriage. They have just weapons that Tom maybe has never had in terms of everything, tight ends, wide receivers. They still need to get maybe a very number one type of running back and maybe work out this offensive line and get some more fortification there. But Tom has a lot of things going for him that if he was going to make this change, this is the perfect place to go. And I can't wait. It's a shame that right now, all things being considered, that there are bigger things that people have to worry about in our country right now, because you can't really see what this is going to look like right out the gate, because he can't even get down there. He can't even really get around the people he's going to be with. But there's a lot of excitement brewing around Tampa Bay, and rightfully so.
Yeah, clearly. And Dan, I'd love you to share with those who are just joining us, and I'd like to get Lewis's reaction to what you saw yesterday as you were looking at tape of Tom Brady and what you think that arm has left for this offense.
Greeny, I think there's the narrative or the thought out there that Tom Brady's arm isn't going to be strong enough to operate Bruce Arians' offense. So I went back and watched all of Tom Brady's throws and watched every snap of the Buccaneers offense. Tom Brady's arm is plenty strong enough to operate Bruce Arians' offense. Through week 6 last year, Greeny, Tom Brady was second in the NFL in 20-plus yard completions, only behind Patrick Mahomes, who has one of the strongest arms in the NFL. Now, I use week 6 as the barometer because that's the last time he had some form of a combination of Antonio Brown and or Josh Gordon at his disposal. So now he gets to go down to Tampa Bay with a Chris Godwin, a young, explosive receiver, and Mike Evans, a deep threat receiver who's super talented at 6'5". Tom Brady's arm is going to be plenty strong enough to deliver the 15, 20, 25-yard rips that Bruce Arians, this offense, is going to ask of it. So it's a very, very good fit. I wanted to touch on also, Greeny, remember when Peyton Manning ended up going to Denver in 2012, that this same thing happened in Schefter's tweet. There was a bunch of guys who wanted to go join the Broncos then as well, and obviously it paid off for them. And it's not surprising that this is happening down in Tampa.
So quickly, Lewis, if you consider all of that, and you can, whether some other players come and join him there, and look, maybe Antonio Brown winds up being one of them, we'll figure that piece out later. Does this look like the makings of a championship team this quickly? Could the Tampa Bay Buccaneers be a legit Super Bowl contender this year?
Well, sure. Anything's possible, especially if everyone's able to stay healthy. History actually winds up coming to fruition and everyone's on the same page. But look, I mean, we don't really know. Look, Tom did look good early on last year. Week 2 against the Miami Dolphins, he looked spectacular. Antonio Brown went off against the Miami Dolphins down there. But you know what? When you get to this rare air and this kind of situation with a guy as old as Tom, no one's ever really played at this kind of level for this long. Every year is a new year, and you really just don't know what to expect. We can assume and we can hope that he's going to hit that level. But one thing that you can probably count on is this. Well, you can definitely count on is this. Players around the league respect him. Coaches around the league respect him. Everyone's going to want to be around the great Tom Brady, and that is one of the benefits that right now that Tampa Bay is getting that maybe they thought that they knew they were going to get, but it's probably going to just come in waves now that people just want to be around one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player and the greatest winner of all time, and you couldn't have it any better than that.
All right, Lewis and Orlovsky, sit with me a second here. I want to get Graziano back in and run the hurry up through a couple of other storylines right now. Dan, with Tom Brady on his way to Tampa, what does that mean for Jameis Winston?
Well, it means a new adjustment to a new normal for Jameis Winston. Greeny, you go back a couple of months, this is a guy that had it in his mind he might be able to get a $30 million a year contract, or at the very least franchised by the Buccaneers for about $27 million. Now he looks around, where's the landing spot? Does he have to go somewhere and be in a competition? Does he have to go somewhere and be a backup? A lot for Jameis Winston to sort out now that he's been replaced as a starter in Tampa Bay.
How about Cam Newton, Dan?
Cam Newton, we know the Carolina Panthers said earlier this week they had given him permission to seek a trade, and he had said, that's not really how it went down. He's going to be a tough one because people are going to want to see how healthy that foot is that cost him almost all of last year. And without being able to get guys in and do your own physical, teams are going to have to figure out how they make their peace with the health questions on Cam Newton before they decide whether to trade for or sign him.
And then the move that was made yesterday, the Chicago Bears finding a veteran quarterback to compete with Mitchell Trubisky. They pick up Nick Foles from the Jaguars in exchange for a compensatory 4th-round pick. Bears head coach Matt Nagy coached Foles both in Philadelphia and Kansas City. So, Dan, what do we expect there? Are they bringing him in to be the starter, or are they bringing him in there to be the backup to Mitchell Trubisky?
I expect it to be a true competition. Now, there are issues associated with that, including the truncated offseason. We don't long they'll have in camp together. It helps Foles that he knows the offense, having been with Matt Nagy before, and several other members of that Chicago Bears coaching staff in various of his previous stops. But my understanding is they want him to come in. He's going to have a shot to beat out Mitchell Trubisky and win the job. Mitchell Trubisky has a shot to beat him out and win the job. It's a heavy financial commitment to Nick Foles by the Chicago Bears. They wouldn't have done it if they were just going to plug him in there and make him be the backup. So obviously they're trying to create a competition at quarterback that makes them better at that position. The Bears are in a win-now window, and they do not want to be in a position to sacrifice another season of that window to inconsistent quarterback play.
Graziano, well done. Thank you, my man. Let me go back to Louis Riddick and Dan Orlovsky. And Louis, you and I have talked so much about the Bears over the course of the last year or two, and so much about Mitchell Trubisky. What is your expectation for how this quarterback competition plays out?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a true competition in every sense, Greeny. Look, Matt Nagy right now is absolutely dialing up the heat on Mitch Trubisky, and he's taking the gloves off, so to speak, that there will be no more babying you. There will be no more just kind of holding your hand and making sure that we're doing everything to make sure that your psyche is in top-notch condition. Now, obviously, he still cares about the player and wants the player to excel. And if Mitch Trubisky winds up being the best player, then great, then he got what he wants. But make no mistake about it, bringing in Nick Foles is a very calculated transaction because he has an extensive history with him. He likes him. He knows that Nick is a big game performer, and he knows this. He knows this, that Nick Foles wouldn't come here and he wouldn't have his contract restructured in the way that he had it restructured, meaning he can void the last 2 years of this deal within these last 2 years if he hits certain performance metrics, if Nick wasn't thinking that he can win this job. You know, when you have this kind of competition, it brings out the best in everyone, or it makes you fold and it makes you shrink. And I think that's exactly what Matt wants. He wants to see if Mitch will kind of grow and stick his chest out and say, this is my football team, I'm going to take it to the next level, or is he going to shrink and let the Super Bowl MVP and the Super Bowl winner go ahead and win this job? That's exactly what they need. Everybody's on notice in Chicago. Matt knows that. Matt knows he needs to win. He knows expectations are high. So that's why, again, this was very calculated, and this is going to be something to watch because I believe that Nick Foles right now is on a mission. I believe he is very motivated, especially considering how people now in Jacksonville are talking about how that was such a failed experiment down there and Gardner Minshew beat him out. Look, Nick Foles is a very prideful human being. You don't win a Super Bowl because you're someone who goes in the corner and hides and kind of shrinks away from competition. He wants this, so Mitch Trubisky better want it because the best man is going to play regardless of who it is.
Danny, who's the best man? Who's the best quarterback in Chicago right now?
Yeah, I mean, think right now it's Nick Foles. He's the most accomplished. But I think everything that Louis said about Nick Foles right there, I kind of see that same thing in Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, we talked about this last night with Steve Young in his regard of the struggles that Mitchell Trubisky went through last year. And if we all go back to that time of turning off the televisions and the interaction between him and Matt Nagy on that, I believe, Sunday night game against the Rams, and we're all like, wait, did he get benched or whatnot? And then we saw him play a lot better at the end of that season, down that stretch. And I think this is, I mean, we talk about the quarterback position sometimes in finality, and it is very much just an ever-growing process or an ever-going process. And so I think that Mitchell Trubisky is going to look at this in the same way as Nick Foles is. This is a challenge for Nick Foles because people think he failed in Jacksonville. Well, it's the same for Mitchell Trubisky. This is my job. He needs to have the mindset, no, this is my job, and this is my team, and this is my organization. And Nick Foles, I want you to come in here and give me your best, and I'm going to give you my best, but I'm not going to let you take my role. And that needs to be his mindset. And I agree with Louis that this is now the time that he's not going to be babied. I want to ask Louis this because, you know, having the thought process of the front office, like, how does a general manager kind of look at this? Because do you think in the end, or like in the long game, it's really best for Mitchell Trubisky to be the guy, or is in the long game for Nick Foles to become their starter? Like, what is your viewpoint on that, Louis? Because I think in the long game, you hope Mitchell Trubisky rises up and becomes your starter for a decade plus, right?
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what Ryan Pace wants, since he's the one who orchestrated the trade up in order to get him. But I think really what ultimately will determine how if people look at Ryan Pace and look at Matt Nagy together, is their relationship. Because again, it's something that I've said time and time again. At the extremes is when you find out just what kind of relationship you have. At the heights of prosperity, at the depths of adversity. Right now, they're having some adversity right now. They can't really figure out exactly where they're going to go with the quarterback position. And if it's Nick Foles or if it's Mitch Trubisky, if their relationship is strong between Matt and Ryan, then it won't matter. They'll be able to go to management and say, hey, look, we figured it out. We're winning football games. And that's what it's all about. As long as they win, they'll be fine regardless of who plays.
All right, guys, thank you for that. We have a little developing news from the NFL. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. And we also will get to this. No one would have a problem with Tom Brady leaving the AFC to avoid the young studs. Would they? Stephen A. Smith jumps in on that debate as we continue. Get Up on ESPN.